First of all, congratulations on this record. I've been following you from day one, and this may wind up being one of my favorites.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's good to hear.
That's really exciting because I'm a jaded old queen, and truth, right?
Okay, yeah,
Truth.
okay, if you say so.
Trust me on this one. And listening to these songs, I went from kind of slouching in my chair to sitting up, very erect, kind of going, oh my God, oh my God. So the first thing I'm wondering is, what did you want to say with this record? There feels like there are a few very distinct messages, but I want to ask you where you were coming from before I start to interpret.
Well, I had just finished making a film which used a very different creative capacity and which is a very fulfilling experience, but at the same time extremely draining, and that you live mostly in your head as a director, and you have all kinds of ideas, which one does when they're writing songs or putting a show together, but you don't get to actually physically act them out in any way. And writing a song or singing a song or performing a song is so visceral in comparison. So I felt that after several years of writing a script and then putting it together and casting and location scouting and then actually filming, and then the boring, sort of tedious job of sitting in a dark edit suite with my trusty editor, Danny Tull, and putting the movie together, and then having the endless comments from the endless distributors, having endless screenings, and not ever having that gratification that you feel when you write a song and you hear it in the room and you see the effect that it has on people, or you sing a song in front of an audience and you get an immediately charged response, or no response, but you understand whether you're connecting to people or not. Whereas with movies, everything's in your head, and you don't get any reaction, and often till years later. So for me, where I was coming from mostly was I felt like a caged animal. While I enjoyed the expression of filmmaking, and I'm really proud of my film, I felt like I really wanted to get back to the basics of chugging my guitar and the simplicity of raw emotions, and just even when I was writing a song and playing it on the guitar, singing like I'm a Sinner, for instance, it just felt so good to play a guitar and sing. I feel like I hadn't done it in years. And when I was doing the vocal for Gang Bang, it was totally like improvised vocal, and I just did it. I was standing in a room. I felt like I had to just scream. I felt like I had to kind of let myself become possessed by this Russ Meyer's, Quentin Tarantino character, all very tongue-in-cheek, but I just went off. I mean, obviously, I had to get some things off my chest. So for me, where I was coming from was mostly like an animal getting let out of their cage and wanting to express all kinds of emotions, not just one, really all the stuff that life is made out of. So I hope I answered that question.
It must have felt really good to go back to not so much a comfort zone, but a place of complete control. Because I think there's this misnomer about directing a film where you are, film is a director's medium, except it's really kind of.
No, you're utterly It's a total collaboration.
It's a producer's medium, if anything.
Well, if an actor comes to the set that day and they're not in a good mood, you spend all your time holding their hand and trying to coax a good performance out of them. Right. Or your production designer goes down with a migraine and you have to decorate the set yourself. I mean, you're actually out of control all day long, every day, for as long as the shoot goes.
And so making music kind of puts you right back in the zone where a person who likes to be in charge of her destiny feels good.
I hate to use the word control so much because people bandy that word about with me when it comes to my creative life. And, everyone's like, you're a control freak and, you like to be in control. The thing is, everything I do, even my songwriting, I'm collaborating at all times. And I value input from people, and I want it. I can't work on my own. I'm not Prince. Or like a lot of artists who can go in and play every instrument and record a track and not hear from people. I need to hear what people think all the time. But I like to have my road dog, my sidekick, it's a clear delineation of who my collaborator is. And I like the simplicity of songwriting because in the end it is simple. You have a melody, you have some words, and you sing. And that hopefully is coming from your heart. A million different emotions, but let's just say it's more direct.
I gotcha.
It's collaborative. I'm not totally in charge, but it's more direct and it's more simplistic.
So how did you decide on the folks you worked with on this record? Because you have 3 primary producers and they're
completely different people.
Very different.
And I know
all 3 of them personally.
Yeah.
I mean, You have Benny, who's the crazy Italian, who
who barely speaks a word of English.
Barely speaks a word of English. I would love to know how you communicated with him.
Through his cousin.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a little crazy.
Yeah.
That's a little crazy and a little frustrating, I'm
sure.
No,
it was at first. First day I wanted to rip my hair out. But when you're working with new people, you always have to find the common ground with them and then figure it out. I mean, I've worked with William Orbit, obviously, before, and something very magical happens when I work with William, and I go to deep places when I work with William. And he's a tortured soul, and so he brings out the tortured soul in me. He's also extremely disorganized in his thinking. He's going to hate me for saying this, but he's like a mad scientist. So he'll go in the room and we'll start working on one song, and then he'll go, oh my God, I have this most amazing idea. And you're thinking it's the same song you're working on. So you say, okay, all right, I'm just going to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. And you come back and he's working on a completely new song, which is also amazing. But you're like, but dude, let's go back to the other song. And it's very easy to get carried away with him because he's very passionate about what he does. He's very articulate, but he's a mad scientist. So he comes with his challenges, but I work with him in a very specific way. And what comes out of our collaborations is very unique. And then with Martin Solveig, he's very much like me in that he's extremely organized, extremely methodical. We share the same love of foreign films, mostly French and Italian, mostly from 50s and 60s. And so all the songs we did together were kind of film. We used films for metaphors as kind of springboards, and we were both mutually obsessed with Alain Delon, which is how the song "Beautiful Killer" came about. The thing is, a lot of people think of Martin Solveig as a DJ, but actually he's a very talented musician, and really easy to work with him. But he accessed the ironic side of me, the love of language and the love of the rhythm of language, whereas William taps into, as I said before, the tortured soul.
Yeah.
So what comes out of both of those collaborations is quite different, but I think equally interesting and exciting to listen to.
Absolutely. What I love about Martin, though, is that he knows grooves, obviously.
Oh yeah.
But he is, like most people from his part of the world, he's in love with pop music.
Yes, he is.
And he's a master of pop hooks, I think.
He is, and I love how he kind of worked with me the way David Mamet worked with me as a playwright, and that he would listen to things and he'd go, lose that syllable. And I'd say, but that's a really important part of the word. But just lose the syllable and see what happens. Or lose the the. And I'd say, well, then it doesn't grammatically make sense. But then it would. You know what I mean? So when I say rhythm of language, and yes, he's like pop music. This is a person who understands pop music and the symmetry of pop music.
He understands the cadence of words, and he uses words. He uses words almost as another rhythm feature, I think.
Yeah, they're percussion instruments.
Yeah, I love that about him. And you're so right about William, though. I talked to William this afternoon, and I swear there was a point where I had no idea what he was saying.
Sure.
We were talking.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
And I've known William for 20 years, and he does that every time we talk. I think, I need aspirin. I love him.
No, he goes off on tangents, and you need to be like the thought police with him sometimes.
You just rein him in, and you just think...
Yeah, he needs reining.
But he's brilliant at the same time.
Absolutely
so
brilliant.
You forgive him, but then you need aspirin. So, but I want to talk about some of my favorite songs from the record. I took copious notes when I was listening.
Okay.
And of course, Gangbang. I don't know who pissed you off. But someone done pissed you
the whole world?
Off. To me, it's like the ultimate. I want that song on my iPod as I walk through Times Square every day on the way home from work because
it's the ultimate revenge song.
It really is. It really is. But there's so many layers because at the other point I was listening and I thought this person is half step away from ultimate unbelievable sorrow at the same time. Whoever this person is sorrow at the same time. And I love the whole imagery of dying for someone. Like that's a demonstration of love. I dated someone once who believed that the ultimate profession of love
would be to death.
Would be to die.
No, it's very nihilistically romantic. Yes, the song is full of layers because on the one hand, it sounds like I'm telling somebody to go fuck themselves. On the other hand, there's, like I said, I took on this character and the whole idea of telling somebody to drive, just to keep driving, and taking charge and calling a man a bitch is for a woman to call a man a bitch is to me the ultimate diss. But then there's, as you say, there's sorrow in it, and there's a broken heart in it, and there's humor.
Oh, yeah, because
lots of humor.
There's also a point in the song where I said to myself, every banjee drag queen in Harlem is going to lose their minds during this song. I described it to my partner as the West Side Highway off Christopher Street in 1992. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking, and you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, of course.
With all the queens voguing, as,
yes.
You know, it's a moment in time. You know,
for
beautiful.
sure.
Amazing. But then to me, the psychological, emotional flip side to that is Superstar, which is the most gorgeous song. And
you like that?
I love it.
Oh, good.
I love it.
It is totally the flip side.
And is it fair to interpret it as almost the next step up from Little Star from Ray of Light?
I wouldn't have made that comparison at all, but what it's fair to say is that it's the antithesis to Gangbang, in that it's about finding a man that you can look up to, and comparing them to archetypes that I obviously adore. John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever, Bruce Lee, Abraham Lincoln. I name people who I look up to and admire, and there are superstars in my mind, and I compare the object of my affection to all these people.
I think the reason why I reached for Little Star is your daughter's voice on the record.
Oh.
Which is lovely.
Yeah, she has an incredible voice. She'll never admit it herself. She's like, Mom, just take my name off the record. I don't want to be on it.
Aww.
I know. I said, too late. No, I wasn't thinking about Little Star, and not even when she was singing on it.
That's so sweet.
So.
It was the first thing that came to mind, and I think it was the association of hearing her voice next to yours. It's almost like...
Well, it's interesting. I mean, obviously there's some unconscious stuff going on there, so...
It's a lovely song.
Little Star grew into Superstar.
Indeed. Is she gonna... The rumor is that she's going to tour with you. Is that true?
Well, she's definitely going on tour with me. I got to keep my eye on her. She's 15.
Uh-oh.
But she hasn't decided what she wants to do yet. This is how we roll. This is how a Libra rolls anyways. They can never make up their minds. You know. I wish she would. She plays the piano beautifully. She's an incredible singer, but she's going through that I don't want anybody to notice me phase. So she might be doing hair and makeup or dressing people in the wardrobe department. Who knows?
To be continued.
To be continued, yes.
So let's move on to I Don't Give a, which is which I think the thing I like about this record.
You're focusing on all my angry songs.
Well, because they touch a chord in me, because I can associate some of my.
Well, I'm sure you can relate to it. I mean, I hope everybody can relate to these songs.
But this might have the most heartbreaking passage where it says, I tried to be a good girl, I tried to be your wife, diminished myself, and I swallowed my light. I, like a lot of people, I lived that. I remember being in a relationship with a man who I adored so much that I just said, I don't know who I am anymore because all I want to be is with you.
Yeah.
So,
or all I want to be is what I think you want me to be, what you want me to be.
So that's a very interesting lyric to hear you write.
Right. Yep. Okay. Well, I wrote
it. Again, you know what I think it is? I think we out here in the world want you to be in control. You know that word, you said that word's bandied around a lot about you. I think it's because we want it. Because we want you to have the kind of control that we're not capable of. How does that responsibility feel when you hear that? Exhausting?
I don't, I think I have great leadership qualities, but I don't think I'll ever be as in control as everybody believes that I am or wants me to be. After all, I'm a human being, and the nature of falling in love is that to a certain extent you do have to compromise. You have to, I talked about this a lot when I was promoting my film. A part of you has to go. A part of you has to die, in a way. I was reading this book called She. It's written by this psychologist. I don't know if you've heard of it. He wrote a book called He and then She.
Yes.
Yeah. And they were comparing the whole idea of being married, and mythologically that the wedding, to walk down the aisle as a bride, that in some, and I don't know, in some ancient mythological times, it was considered a funeral march.
Wow.
Because in a primal way, you are giving yourself up. You're giving yourself up to your other half, to this man, and then you're giving up your life in a way, and your married life takes over. And it's an incredible amount of power to give someone, and I think it's a valid sacrifice to make, but you just have to make sure you're making it with the right person.
As you're writing songs all these years down the line in your life, and obviously some of it is about your own journey and some of it's about whatever you observe. Is there ever a time when you find frustration in not having all the answers yet? Because I think what we strive for is clarity and just answers. And I don't know that that's possible. As I get closer to 50, I'm realizing I may never have the answer, and that really pisses me off sometimes.
But the journey is to get close to the answer, and the education that you have is your journey. I mean, you've pushed yourself down this road trying to get to the heart of things, trying to understand the nature of things, and whilst you're striving to find that intangible, seemingly unhavable thing, the answer, what is the meaning of life, and what is the meaning of love and happiness, and why are we here? While you're trying to figure that out, you're getting a hell of an education, and you're learning how to be a human being. And so sometimes you just have to say, well, I don't have all the answers, but I know that I'm evolving. I know that I'm learning. I know that I'm growing. So, I mean, I think that's all you can hope for. What you don't want is stasis. What you don't want is to not push yourself, to not ask the next question, to not take risks. You don't want to stand still, because that's death. And so go forward, and maybe 10 miles down the road and 10 years later, you still don't have all the answers, but hopefully you're a more experienced person, and you have a glimpse of it, a glimpse of what the answer is.
How do you manage to observe the world when you're so observed yourself? Because I remember one time we talked, and you said that's where you get your ultimate inspiration from from humanity. I can always observe. Today in my production meeting with my directors and my co-directors and my lighting designers and my choreographers, I can observe personalities and people talking and people arguing and people disagreeing, and I can see, okay, this person's not getting their point across, or this person's frustrated, because there's a million opportunities, and being a mother and having children, I have a million opportunities to observe in a creative collaboration. There's observations of how people are working with one another when I'm rehearsing, when I'm working with musicians, when I'm working with dancers, when I'm seeing the synergy or the connectivity or the chemistry that's created by people. And the magic of art, okay, it's true when I go out on the street, I can't observe people the way I would if I was an anonymous person, but I have so many situations in my life where I'm allowed to do that, so... Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So when you're taking these ideas, these experiences, these observations, and you're merging them with melody, with rhythm, how often do the rhythms and the melodies come first?
Most of the time it's the rhythm that comes first, but it depends. If I'm playing my guitar, then the melody comes first. And that melody and or the rhythm inspires the words. So it's one or the other.
My sense, and I got this also from when I was speaking with William earlier, is that taking up guitar has completely transformed you as an artist. That he described how you will deconstruct a track on a guitar before recording it so that you can kind of find the right zone for what you want to record.
Yeah.
How does being able to touch the music feel to you? Because there's a difference between being someone who understands how to hit the buttons on a board and understanding the theory of music, but how does touching it affect you?
Well, I don't know. I think it affects me in a deeply emotional way. There's something primal about it, and I love the idea that when it gets down to it, if everything goes tits up, I can always grab a guitar and go on a corner and strum my guitar and put my head out there, and there's just something really simple and primal and direct about playing guitar and singing.
There's still a lot of romance in your spirit about music, isn't there?
Of course.
That's really...
How could there not be?
Well, you'd be surprised.
How could you be a songwriter and not be romantic?
I would agree with you, but I guess I've run into far too many cynics lately. And it's funny, as we're talking about all this, I'm thinking about the other song on the record that I love so much, Falling Free, which is just bliss. It's the perfect coda to everything that we hear over the journey, that when all is said and done, after you say "die, bitch," and I tried to be good, and you're my stupid, all these various
all
things,
the blaming and all the it's your fault and all the
purging,
anger,
the purging.
The purging.
You still believe in love.
Absolutely.
Isn't that neat?
It's amazing.
That's got to be the most. No, I mean, I don't mean to sound silly saying that, but that's that's a neat feeling. And it's a feeling that the emotion is palpable, perhaps most on that song as I listen to the record, because I think again when you take the image that people have of you as an artist versus what people will get if they actually listen to the music, it's sometimes very different, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, do you think you're still fighting to be heard properly after all these years?
I think I still have a lot to say. I still get pissed off about things, and I still believe in love.